Lesson 6-2, proportions. Proportions is one of my favorite lessons because we'll use it for the entire chapter, and once you get the hang of them, they're very easy to set up. All right, we'll watch this tomorrow in class. A proportion is an equality of two ratios. For example, 6/9 equals 8/12. What I mean by that, whenever you hear me say set up a proportion, I'm looking for two ratios, which we know look like fractions, set equal to each other. So in this example, they have 6/9 set equal to 8/12. That is a proportion, two ratios set equal to each other. We can use, or the products, if this were my proportion, A over B equals C over D. AD equals CB. The products across from each other we call cross products. In a proportion, the cross products are equal. So if I did 6 times 12, it would equal 8 times 9. Let's do an example together. So in this first example, multiplying to solve a proportion. When we have a variable, we want to solve for that variable. We can do it two different ways. I'm actually going to show you the second way first because I believe it's the easiest. If you have a variable x in proportion, no worries, using cross products, multiply what's across. 9 times 4, always set proportions equal, to x times 6, which they notated right here. So our new equation, x times 6 should equal the other cross products, 9 times 4. Well, x times 6 is 6x, and 9 times 4 is 36. Now I can solve this as a one-step equation. Divide by 6 to both sides, I get x equals 6. So if I put that back in on my proportion, this would be 6/9, which equals 4/6. Those two fractions are equal to each other. One other way you might prefer this method, it's called the multiplication property of equality. If I have x/9 equals 4/6, the same one we solved over here, if I look at the ratio with the unknown variable, in this case, the denominator is 9. If I multiply both sides by that denominator of 9, my 9's cancel out on this side, so I'm left with just x. And over here, 4/6 times 9/1, this is 36/6. Now I can simplify that and I get x equals 6, the same answer I got over here. So I'll just do one more example. If I have this first proportion, it wants you to solve it. They mean find out what the variable h is. h/9 equals 2/3. I'm going to look at my cross products. H times 3 is 3h, set equal to my other set of cross products, 9 times 2. 9 times 2 is 18. Divide by 3 to get h by itself. H equals 6. All right. Two ratios form a proportion if their cross products are equal. We've talked about this. So sometimes we're going to test to see if it really is a proportion, if it's really proportionate. So these two ratios, we want to know, are they proportional? So I'm going to set them equal to each other. I'm going to find the cross products, 4 times 14 and 10 times 6. 10 times 6 is 60. 14 times 4 is 56. I see here that 60 does not equal 56. These two ratios are not a proportion. One way you could answer is if it says, do these ratios form a proportion? You could just say no. One more example, let's do A. 6/9, does that equal 4/6? Well, I'm going to do my cross products. 4 times 9 is 36, and 6 times 6 is 36. These ones do form a proportion. All right, here's a word problem. St. Michael Catholic School has 20 out of 35 girls that play basketball. So out of the total of 35 girls, 20 of them play basketball. And out of 40 boys, 25 play basketball. Is the ratio of girls playing basketball the same as the ratio of boys? So here's our ratio of girls, 20 to 35. Here's our ratio of boys, 25 to 40. To see if they're proportional, where was that word? Or the same, we're going to set them equal to each other. I'm going to do 20 times 40 for this cross product. I get 800. And I'm going to do 25 times 35, this cross product, and I get 875. These two numbers are not equal. Therefore, the number of girls and boys that play basketball are not proportionate. Third example, we can use proportions to solve problems. Here is the first problem. 100 nautical miles equals about 115 standard or statute miles. How many statute miles equal 381 nautical? Round your answer to the nearest whole number. If this gets a little confusing to you, I'm going to show you how to organize it. I know there's some work right here, but I'm going to move on to another page just to do it again for you. All right, so in that last example, they told us that 100 nautical miles is equal to 115 statute. Okay, so I'm going to be setting up some proportions. We want to know how many statute are in 381 nautical. So to set up a proportion, I know I need to have two ratios set equal to each other. I need the units on top and bottom to be the same for both. So just for order of reference, I'm going to be putting my nautical miles on top of my statute. That way I can help myself stay organized. So in the first ratio, 100 nautical is going to go on top. I'll do N for nautical, and 115 statute will go on bottom. In this proportion, I know there's 381 nautical. I'm solving for how many statute, or the bottom number. So we know how to solve a proportion because we're just going to look at cross products. So 100 times x is 100x, and 381 times 115, I'm going to cheat and use my calculator, 43815. To get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 100, divide by 100. That'll move my decimal 2 places in, round to the nearest whole number. 438 statute miles equals 381 nautical. Let's check the book. Looks like they got the same thing, about 438. So if I were to do this problem again in a new example, to the nearest mile, how far in nautical miles is 100 statute? So I need to use the same thing they told me in the last example, that 100 nautical equals 115 statute. 100 nautical equals 115 statute. I'm setting that equal to find out how many nautical, we don't know nautical, is equal to 100 statute. This time, looking at cross products, 100 times 100 is 10,000, and 115 times x is 115x. Divide 10,000 by 115. My answer is 87 rounded, so about 87 nautical miles. I'm going to do one more example that's a little bit easier to understand. If 3 books at the Scholastic Book Fair, 3 books, together sell for $16.80, how much would it cost to buy 8 books at this same rate? All right, I'm going to set up my proportion with books to money. If you set yours up, money over books, you're going to get the same answer, just as long as we set our proportions up with the same units on top and bottom. So I'm going to set up a proportion, 2 ratios equal to each other. The first one, I know that if there's 3 books, books is on top, that sell for $16.80. How much, that tells us we're going to be solving for the money on bottom. How much would it cost for 8 books? Now I have my proportion. I'm going to look at cross products. 1680 times 8 is 134.4, and 3 times x is 3x. I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides to get x by itself. X is going to equal 44.80. So if I went to the Scholastic bookstore and bought 8 books, I would spend $44.80. I found that using this ratio I already knew. All right, this is where I'm going to stop you. There are 5 problems for you to solve. Look back in the examples of this video if you need to see how to do them again. Good luck.